Hello, beautiful people. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day today. Thank you for joining us today with our co-host, Andrea Marie.
Hello.
And yours truly, Karma. Today's episode is titled The Good, the Bad, the Ugly of Managing Customer Expectations. Something, we didn't think was such a big deal, but really is, especially in the tailoring world. So we've actually inserted a clip. I hope you guys enjoy it. It's a small clip of a project that we did earlier this week, and ours truly, Andrea, did a phenomenal job stitching it. And also, she did a really good job explaining how everything works out and how everything's laid out. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and we'll see you in a little bit.
Okay, as far as like setting customer expectations goes, sweaters or any knitwear is one of those tricky things that people don't always understand. So this bridesmaid dress, for instance, this entire bodice situation is knitwear. Now, when knitwear is created in the factories, right, there are machines for the finishing touches. This is all knitted right onto this garment. It is not built to be altered. And I don't know if you can see what is happening, the problem with this particular gown. You can kind of see it as you look from like the back side view. She did not like the way this gaped. It just did not hug her in the way that was I think intentionally designed to be. So we had to talk to her about altering knitwear. We don't have all of these fancy machines that do these fancy knitted details, but also we don't even have the yarn. We just, that's not possible. Same thing goes for like sweaters. When people want to shorten the sleeves of a sweater, that ribbed cuff is knitted into the design, like it's part of, it's not a separate piece that has a seam on it, right? So it's not built to be altered. So we have to manage expectations. Well, we cannot do the original, which we always default to original on anything we possibly can. We just can't with knitwear. So at first glance, another member of our studio was doing fittings that day, and her first instinct was to take in these side seams, because if it was a woven silhouette, same silhouette but out of a woven fabric, that's probably the route we would have taken first, right? Just nip it in the sides right here. Well, that creates two problems. One, it still has a gap right here, but two, even worse in our opinion, was that it formed this step. Now, when it's a woven fabric, you can trim away some of this to make this side line profile streamlined. You cannot do that easily with this knitwear that has this beautiful detail. So then what do? Do you like tuck it and hand tack it underneath? It starts to look a little crafty, janky, which we always want to avoid. So then she called me in for a consultation, and I started experimenting with what if we kind of nipped it in the back here. And that somewhat pulled this down, but it still had drag lines. It just wasn't, you can kind of see, it just still wasn't ideal. But it was hitting a little bit more at keeping that same line without creating these weird steps, right? So as last resort, and I say last resort because this bride, it was a particular situation where the wedding is within this next week. She did not have time to go shopping for a new design, but also she was expected to, she's a bridesmaid, so she's expected to show up at the wedding in this specific dress. So we had to make it work. Last option, and the one we finally settled on, and you might even see these markings, was to create darts at the bust. Still not super ideal, right? Because we are going to be stitching across this stretchy ribbed knit, so we'll have to be very attentive to not stretching this out at all as we stitch. And that does keep this streamlined. We can keep all of this detail and it will be tucked up underneath. So we will then have to kind of, I think, hand stitch this into place in a way that kind of conceals these folds as much as possible. And she said she would be okay with a dart. Like, it will be obvious, it will be showing, but the nice thing about that is it will be under her arms. So it will be a little bit lower profile than pretty much anything else, any other options that we had. And that does resolve this kind of stretched out, wavy situation. So that's our best fix, best case scenario. And still not exactly, she thought she could just come to the tailor and have us fix it really quickly. But I think, like, all in all, everybody's happy with it, knowing all of the difficulties that play into it, so. Okay, so a couple of key pointers to this. First, change out your needle. You need a jersey needle. Especially this is like thick jersey, so you just don't even want the needle to be an issue. Next, you have to really line up. See how this is even off just a tiny little bit? This steps down. This is almost like one of the hardest parts of this, is you really have to line these two up so they are flush and create one line once you press this out. The other one is that I baste it first, and I will kind of pull it tightly, not gather it, but just pull it so that these just want to stretch out as you sew. So the basting really keeps it in place. The other thing I do is I will engage my top walking foot. If you have like an attachment, a presser foot that has a walking attachment on top, that keeps it feeding really evenly from both top and bottom, because a jersey knit, well, a knit like this is going to want to shift and bend, which can also create a stretch. I'll make sure this is lined up a little bit more, but I don't have to do undo all the basting to do that. I can just undo this little bit, really nail that spot so that they're both, and sometimes it helps to come in from the top to get that to stay in place, and then put that permanent stitching in right over the top of the basting. I even kind of push it as I go, so it's not, we really don't want it to stretch out. So there's a lot of little things that go into making this, and then we'll press it out and hand stitch this down underneath here in a discreet way. So it'll look like, do a straight stitch only because, so sometimes it's good to do like a flattened zigzag stitch. This isn't going to be like a high stress situation where it's going to need to be stretched this way a whole lot. So I think it's going to be just fine. Most of the stretching is going to be this direction. So I used a straight stitch so that, again, it kind of keeps it clean looking. And then I'm just going to go back through and press this and hand stitch it, but it's going to look okay. Like, I think it's going to be okay. Oh, see, that even kind of shifted a little bit. I'm going to go back and redo that. I'm really a stickler for that. And since I kind of back stitched that, I'm going to use this to loosen some of those up, because with knit, it's like if you go in there with a razor on these tighter stitches, I just don't want to nick the knitwear piece itself and create some kind of weird little hole or fray. So I'm a little more careful if I've done those back stitches, you know what I mean? Well, I'm always careful, but it's just easier to make a mistake when it's like thick little stitches right there. Okay, so now I've pressed out the dart and I've finished the hand stitching. All I did was this edge right here, and I actually was able to stitch it to this seam so that you don't see any stitching on the fabric itself. Not necessary to hand stitch this down, because once this is down, it's going to keep it from flapping up. And there it is, clean. Okay, so now you can see there is no more gaping along this line. The dart just brings it all in and lays more smoothly now, and I'm excited to see it on the customer. I think we resolved this really well. Even when you look from the back, it just hugs like it was meant to. Okay. So exciting.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed the clip. We're gonna have a conversation and see what our final thoughts are on the knit dress. And also, we have a few more examples, so we hope that you stay along and, you know, enjoy our conversation while we're sewing. So today, by the way, she is sewing on this beautiful wedding dress, and I'm over here in the teal working on a prom dress today. So
our projects.
whoop whoop.
So that clip, yeah, that was the other day. And so what we're up against as tailors is we're so familiar with different substrates, right? Different fabric types, how they work. That one was knit, not the usual for a bridesmaid dress. We're also familiar with construction, and so we know what the limits are with things, but it's not the general public is not educated about these things. And so there's a lot of times just a discrepancy between what is possible and what isn't, or what they want to be possible and what is or isn't possible. And I say this all the time, that one of the measures of a good tailor is actually what they say no to. And I kind of told this customer, the knitwear bridesmaid, that I will not hesitate to say no to this project if I really don't feel like there's a good solution. And it did take a good like 15 minutes in that initial fitting to get it to where I felt good enough about it, and she felt good about it, if whatever I had to do to make it work. But I had to tell a similar thing to an express bride that I visited with the other day, that you know, I will not hesitate to say no to something, because I do know the limits of these fabrics and construction and all of that, and I don't want it to look like a craft project. Like, I don't want it to look like we made it work. So that's where you get, like, you know, the dreaded botched bridal gown, right? Like, it's a tailor trying to meet the expectations of a bride. There's a discrepancy, and the tailor feels this responsibility to make it work, and I don't. I will not. Like, I know in the end what it's gonna look like sometimes, and I will not go there. Now, sometimes we don't know what it's gonna look like in the end, because sometimes it is new territory, but we have so much more knowledge than the average customer does about these things. So I do feel like it's our responsibility to sometimes redirect or inform, educate. That's why I offer the express consultation. It's 20 minutes for $20. I will basically flood the customer with all the things to look out for, what I know, and yeah, it ends up being a really, really good thing to arm them with information before they go out and buy their bridal gown. So this one the other day, she had already been married and divorced, about 10 years before she came into my studio. And she still had this gorgeous gown that she absolutely loved from her first wedding. And her comment at the beginning of this express, and she brought the gown, so she showed me, and it was absolutely gorgeous, fully all lace. It was like a fit and flare, had this beautiful trumpet shaped hem, and then this long train. And it also had sleeves on top and kind of a cool sweetheart neckline shape that was also formed with the way the sleeves were attached, and it was just really, really beautiful. So her first comment was, opening the whole express visit, was, I did not want to go out and spend a couple $1,000s on a new gown when I could just redo this one. And I'm thinking, okay, well, what are her goals, right? Like, are her goals like to be earth friendly? Are her goals to save money? And as she kept talking about it, I could tell that her goal was to save money. And so Isabel, my daughter, another member of Andrea Marie Tailoring here, was with me, and I could tell she was processing the same information that I was, and we both kind of took a breath and sat back and realized this was a moment where we would have to redirect some expectations. And so I said to her, well, I hear from you that your goal is to not go out and spend a bunch of money on a new gown if we can just redo this one. So I will say that custom sewing, custom bridal is very expensive. And of course it's calculated according to the time involved. And so if it is a very quick, small change, you might be within your goal. But if you are feeling like you need a complete redesign, which she did keep saying, then you might be looking at a higher price tag than you realize. And so she shared some of the silhouettes that she was loving. One of them was the fitted corset top with the basque waist, and then the poofy ball gown. Yes. And I said, well, immediately I can tell you that you're going to be putting a lot of extra fabric on this gown and a lot of your tailor's time into this, which is going to translate to probably more money than it would be to go buy a new dress. And she didn't realize that. She was surprised by that and tell me more. And so I asked her, are there other silhouettes that you're thinking of converting this into? And she did say she liked kind of a halter top, instead of, to remove the sleeves, do a halter top, keep the fit and flare. And I said, well, we would need to possibly source some fabric to make this new silhouette, but there isn't as much to change about that. It's probably the most doable and the least amount of time, but we would still need to source a little bit of the lace to do this, new back and new situation. And so I said, our options with sourcing fabric are also limited. So to go to a fabric store or to order from a fabric company online is extremely tricky, because to color match white, I don't know if you've ever picked out even just white paint for a wall, there are 452 shades of white. You add to that it was lace. The entire gown was lace. The exact pattern of lace would also be extremely difficult. And I never say impossible, because maybe in some warehouse somewhere is the leftovers from from when her gown was originally made, but also it was made 10 years ago. So it's not completely impossible, but would be almost impossible. So I said, if you really wanted like exact fabric, exact matching, we would then have to probably source from the dress itself, which would be the train. And she was like, no, that's what I bought this dress for. I love the train so much. And she did not like the idea of that. So we recommended that perhaps she just, for the fun of it, go try on some new dresses. I kind of gave her some estimates of what it would look like to refurbish or redesign her gown. She did not like those estimates, and so it at least armed her with more information about what she was actually getting into, whether it be to redo her original gown or just buy a new one. So we have not heard back from her yet, so I'll be really curious to see if she found something. But certainly I think she has until I think next March was her wedding date. So she has a while, but I'm guessing, I would bet that she probably will not be going the redesign route for that gown. Just because, like, again, her dream, her expectation was not attached to the reality of what it would look like yet. So again, like, ask your tailor, like, if they do those express visits, and I highly recommend you do it before you even purchase your gown, because oftentimes bridal boutiques don't have in-house tailors anymore. It's becoming more and more rare. So yeah, ask all the questions. Have you had any stories about resetting customer expectations?
I do, but it isn't as extreme as yours. And when I say extreme, I'm saying like just to put my 2 cents. Oh my God! I don't think people even understand. Sometimes, you know, the vision that you have in your head,
Yeah,
can sometimes cost you more so than just going and buying a new dress that actually fits you. You know what I mean?
right.
Like, I feel like people don't understand there's hidden costs. Even if it's just redesigning, you know, the hidden cost of certain alterations that the bridal boutique either is not aware of, or, you know, they just don't know.
Right.
And then the bride finds out when they get here to see us, and we're the ones that have to tell them, hey, you know, because of this is what it's, you know, gonna cost.
Or it's just not possible.
Correct. Well,
Or the silhouette is gonna change a whole lot.
That's the other thing people don't see is like the silhouette, the original design is completely, it will never be the same again.
Right.
And it's funny you say that funny I say that because the next one I feel was a happy ending, and was one of those fairy tale 1 in a million chances that this dress we could do the impossible to it, is how I'm gonna put it.
Okay.
So we had last year, if I'm not mistaken, we got a phone call from a boutique that had us go and do an in-person fitting to see if this dress could even be reworked, if we could do anything. And she was such a cute young lady. She had everyone around, and you could see where it was clipped in the back. It was clipped several inches.
She was so in love with this dress too. There was no talking her into anything else.
Exactly. So
But
we had to make it. Well, this one she was like, whatever, you know, like, we have to make this work.
Yeah.
This is what I want. And here's the thing, that dress was dreamy, you know, it was like a 2-layer dress in a way, and it was weird because the original designer had it as a one whole dress with like this skirt that was, it was very constructed, it was a very rigid skirt, but underneath was this very beautiful champagne-y white lace dress. It was so dreamy. But the skirt wasn't detachable until after. So I can remember whenever, we were discussing it and we let her know, like, hey, for us to take it in, you're going to lose some features. And
because we were taking it in how much? Do you
almost
remember?
4 or 6 inches.
Yeah, it was like 6 to 8. Yeah, it was a lot.
It was.
Because they couldn't find anything close to her size.
Exactly. And I don't even think they could find, I think that was the last run of that dress, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And so you were very upfront with her and letting her know, like, hey, we're going to have to make up the difference of taking it in the skirt by either adding pleats or gathers. And she was like, that's fine. And the other thing is you're going to lose, it had like sheer paneling on the side, and you spoke with her and you're like, hey, you're going to lose the paneling. She's like, that's fine. She was okay with making certain design sacrifices, and I remember, when we were speaking to her, you were very upfront, like, this is not going to be the same dress that you're looking in the mirror.
Yeah.
Like, this is not going to be the same dress. It's going to be completely different silhouette, completely different design. And it was actually at that point where she was like, can you make the skirt detachable? And we actually looked at it another and we're like, it is very possible that we might be able to do this, but we
take it off anyway.
Like, the whole thing will have to get redone.
Yeah.
Now, I did speak with Isabel, which is another member, and of course, your daughter, here at the studio. And she was the one that was the very person that was hands-on with the dress. So I was able to talk to her a little bit and get a little bit more information of the process that she went through, having to even try to figure it out. And she was letting me know a lot of reconstruction had to go into the skirt. Again, the pleats and the gathering. I think we did pleats instead. But it takes a lot of brain power because, the pleats, they have to be a certain width, you know what I mean? And you don't want to, you want them a certain design where it doesn't look like it's an afterthought, but rather it's part of the designs.
Lots of math. She's the math girl, so she was the perfect one for the job.
Exactly.
But she had to recalculate so much so that the seams in the top would line up with those pleats. Ugh.
She said it wasn't easy to remove the skirt and make it detachable. Because, either way, even with it being a structured skirt, the underneath layer was a very delicate, tulle mesh. You know what I mean? It was, beautiful. She also said that it was, let me see. Sorry. Forgive me. I'm here reading my notes.
No, I love that you interviewed her too, because she really did all the heavy lifting on that.
She did.
I mean, it's one thing to do that, consultation and talk through the options. Whole other thing to actually implement the changes.
So she said a lot of the little steps that added time was figuring out or using the brain power to figure out the waistband, the pleats, even the hooks. So you guys took on the idea of putting the detachable skirt on hook and eyes. And you had to space those out to carry the weight, not only consistently but also equally, so it didn't rip the clothing underneath or the dress underneath where it's at.
It became an engineering marvel is what it became.
Yes, it did. And she said once in there saw the layers. So you couldn't see how many layers were on the outside.
Right.
Until she got in there and realized just how many layers she was cutting. She was having to redo, resize.
It had pockets that she had to work around.
Yes. Yeah, she said the pockets changed because of the location of the pleats. I will say, she said, I could quote her on this. I asked her, what was it about this project that allowed it to go as smooth as possible, that actually allowed this to be possible? Because
that's a great question.
Most times it's not possible to do, 6-8 inches taken because, you know, everything is completely different. Lines are being warped, lines are being changed. And she said the bride was nice and easy going. That at first they weren't sure if it was even possible starting out. The applique was another thing that she had to sacrifice, which a lot of people don't want to sacrifice, is the applique, is the detailing. However, she had to sacrifice that the applique is going to be on one or the other. It cannot be on the detachable skirt and on the dress. It can be on one or the other. So she did say, and I quote, having an open mind and things are not exactly how they will turn out to be. So I think that is a perfect quote.
Yeah, I love that.
Of the whole situation, because this bride, again, she was willing to make this hard decision that some people is just a deal breaker, you know. And also this wasn't an easy project of like 1 month or 2 months. This was a span of several months and multiple fit checks where she was having to come in and we're having to readjust.
Right.
She was super understanding and knew that it was going to cost a lot more.
Yeah.
So this is one where she was like, the cost is not a problem. The price is not the issue, you know. It's just she wanted it to fit her. And at this point, again, from the beginning, you kind of managed her expectations by letting her know, hey, you're going to be losing this.
Yeah.
And she was okay with it. And it's like, as you were pointing it out and she was okay with it, it's like we were going off like a checklist. Check, she said, okay. Check, it's okay. And I think that's where if people want to do a whole redesign, like this is a happy ending.
It is, because in the end, she ended up liking the dress more.
Yes.
She loved it.
Yes.
So we gave her something in addition to making a whole bunch of sacrifices.
Correct. Yes. And, you know, like you said, ultimately at the end, she loved it.
Yeah.
Where
she really
someone
did.
else would be like, no, you know, I lost the train, or no, you know,
Yeah.
I lost the applique. In her instance, I loved the dress actually afterwards.
I
Like
did
the
too.
end product, I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
It was dreamy. She looked amazing.
She really did.
And it helped me open my mind up to the real possibilities of what can happen when you have the creativity and the possibility to make something actually work. It's not like making it work, like, you know, kind of looks creative, but like actually using what it looks like with the design and trying to keep it together. You know, again, that is probably one of my most memorable ones where we've had to set expectation, and it's a good one because she was okay with it.
Yeah, she caught the vision.
Yes, she did. Well, with that being said, I think that's our last story. Do you have any final words, or do you have any inputs?
Example. I think my biggest one is just really know that it's one of the biggest litmus tests of a good tailor is what they say no to. So while it might be so disappointing, it might crush your dreams to hear no, please know that there are tailors out there that will try to make it work just to make you happy. Listen to the ones that say no and believe them because there is a reason they are saying no. There's a reason they're saying this is not possible. Man, I could go on and on and on about, you know, how it's really difficult to hear no when you have your expectations in a certain place, especially if it's like for an event or you're feeling pressure in some way to make something work. But tune in to that tailor that isn't afraid to say no, and try not to push them any further.
Also, my last parting words, it's go to your local tailor and get body measured. Like, actually get measured before you go to the bridal. I love the fact that you do provide the 20-minute bridal consultation, because you're right. You arm them with information, with more information than they had previously. And now when they go, they actually have a more realigned and more realistic vision and understanding of what I'm going to go pick out. And guys, sometimes if you're not wanting to spend the money because you know, you have something you want to rework. It's one thing if it's sentimental value, that's like your old grandmother's wedding dress or mother's wedding dress, and you want to use that dress. Please keep in mind, it's gonna cost a pretty penny, and you know, and it's worth it if that's what you want. However, if you're looking just so that you're not spending more money, then your best chance is to find a dress that fits you exactly to the T.
Yeah, or as close to that as possible.
Correct, yeah, because alterations add in their own cost, you know.
Yeah.
So, those are my parting words.
Love it.
Alright, guys, well, in this case, then we will see you guys next week.
Yeah, till next time.
Till next time.
Be safe.
And happy sewing.
And be well.
Bye.